WENY Political Analyst Dr. Jim Twombly joining us in studio today to talk about Clarence Thomas and Supreme Court ethics. Now, Jim, typically when we're talking about allegations of corruption or ethics, most of the time we're talking about elected officials. But right now we're talking about the controversial behavior by a Supreme Court justice and his spouse. Associate Justice Clarence Thomas recently claimed he did nothing wrong in accepting gifts of travel from a wealthy contributor to the Republican Party. And Thomas said he was advised that he did not have to report gifts of entertainment. So, Jim, are there any rules governing the behavior of Supreme Court justices?
Only in a very limited sense. Justices are supposed to file financial statements regarding outside income and potential conflicts of interest. However, whether or not that conflict or that income is a source of conflict is sufficient to cause them to recuse themselves on a specific case is entirely up to the justice's own judgment. Certainly, blatant abuse and or quid pro quo corruption could be an impeachable offense. But in this political environment, it would have to be something much more heinous for Congress to take action.
Okay, so is Justice Thomas correct in that these types of gifts are not reportable?
From my understanding of the ethics rules and what was given to Thomas, he's only partly correct. The actual entertainment, food, lodging, and so forth do not have to be reported, but transportation expenses, especially if not ordinary commercial travel, must be reported. And here, we're talking about luxury yachts and private jets as the mode of transportation.
Okay, and now his wife, Ginny Thomas, what about her interactions with close advisors to President Trump after the 2020 election and leading up to the events of January 6th?
Well, in any case like this, we want to be deferential to the spouse's right to free speech and association and weigh that against the influence that the spouse and their behavior might have over the justice. There is already one decision where Clarence Thomas was the sole dissenter in an opinion that made his wife's communication with then Chief of Staff Mark Meadows available to the public.
Okay, and can this be fixed?
Sure, if Congress would get its act together and work across the aisle, we could see the establishment of real ethics standards with penalties for noncompliance and requirements that justices recuse themselves. Congress could also start the process of amending the Constitution to impose term limits on justices. While I don't support term limits for elected officials, I can get behind a long term of, say, 18 to 20 years for justices. Some say that an amendment isn't necessary, but for the sake of clarity, it would be better than trying to impose the limit by statute.
Okay. All right. Well, Jim, thank you for joining us and helping us make sense of what the issue at hand here is.
My pleasure.
All right.